Hi there and welcome to Queer Stories. Today we're going to be talking about The Last of Us Part 2. I remember playing the first Last of Us game, which came out back in 2013. I'm not really into zombie games, and so I thought, I'm just not going to play that game. But one of my coworkers said, Lily, you have to play this game. This is the best game I've ever played. You need to play it. And so I said, okay, I'll go and I'll play the game. And I actually thought it was right up there with the best games that I had ever played. So then when I heard that they were making a second game, I was like over the moon excited about it. And I had been waiting to play this game for a very long time. We could already see from trailers that came out last year that there were some very overt lesbian elements to the game, which made me even more excited than I was to begin with. I just finished playing the game this week. I really took my time and played it slowly. So I finished it this week and now I'm ready to talk about it. So first, I just want to go back and recap a little bit of what happened in the first game because there was some LGBT representation in that game as well. And we saw the character Ellie being introduced. She was already presented as a lesbian character, particularly when you looked at some of the side materials that you could play. Then you could see that even though she was very young, that she had lesbian feelings for her best friend. So she was already being presented as a lesbian character in the first game. And we also had another character that was gay in the first game, which I think a lot of people might have missed because the representation was a bit more subtle. But that character's name was Bill, and Bill was like an amazing character. So Bill was this really tough guy, and he sort of like had cordoned off this town that he decided was his town, and he booby-trapped it and all kinds of stuff. And so when he's shown in the first game, he's shown as this really macho but like kind of mean guy. And you see peppered throughout his story little elements of, oh, there used to be this guy that was my partner and I had to take care of him. And so the words that they were using were very subtle. But if you, like, the second that I read the note that this character's partner had left for him, I thought, oh, they were lovers, like, for sure, because there was something about that note that was so soft and so fond. And then it became overt in the scene when Ellie and Joel are driving in the car, and Ellie is looking at this magazine that she picked up in Bill's basement, and the magazine is a gay porno mag. And you can tell this because she makes a joke about, like, how can this guy even walk with such a big, thing? And so I was like, oh my God, for sure Bill is gay and that guy was his partner. And I was like, oh! So the representation of Bill's gayness was a little bit more subtle. But what I loved about the Bill character is that he was just kind of a normal guy in this universe. And then they presented him as gay. So I thought that was great. Now we get to Last of Us Part 2. So first of all, my favorite thing about this game was how they represented different types of women. And we saw quite feminine women, like the women that were pregnant in the game. And then we also saw women that were more butch. If we look at Ellie's character, she is very clearly a lesbian character, and she's presented more as a tomboy. So we get to see that sort of tomboy type of character. Her girlfriend is bisexual, and she presents in a more feminine manner. And then we see the other main character, Abby, who is straight but very butch. And what I love about her representation in this game, I actually love the Abby character. I think a lot of people hated Abby. And the game kind of makes you want to hate her in the way that she's presented, especially at the beginning. But I loved her character. And what I loved about her is that she presents very butch. And this is like survival mode for how you're going to survive in a zombie apocalypse. Is you've got to become that type of woman, right? If you're going to be the one that's protecting other people, then you have to embrace your physical strength and your mental strength. And Abby is really presented as a character that has both. And I love that. And we also see that she has this personal journey. And when you look at her before the trauma that happens in her life, she's actually a bit more of a normal girl. We see her sort of, falling in love with a boy and being a bit more feminine. And then after this major trauma happens, her goals in life shift. And her goal is now revenge for the person that had enacted this trauma upon her. And then she beefs up and she gets very strong and she seeks out revenge after that. And so with Abby's character, we see this transformation, but we're presented with the transformation after it already happens. And then we see in flashbacks how she got to where she is now. Whereas in contrast, what happens with Ellie is the trauma happens at the beginning of the game, and then we see how she progresses into the person that she is now. But either way, what I love is the different varieties in the types of females that we see in the game. Because you do know how many games that you play where women and men as well, but where they're just like cookie cutter molds, and this is what a female looks like. And that female is usually tall and skinny and with ankles so thin that they would sprain their ankles trying to fall over, and they're probably doing martial arts in high heels. And as somebody who's done martial arts since I was a kid, I can tell you if I did martial arts in heels, ain't no way I'm not breaking an ankle. So I love the way that they portrayed women in this game, and I think that's probably what made a lot of people not like this game, is that their portrayal of women was not what they were expecting. And since the target audience for video games is still mostly male, that they don't know how to react to that when they see different types of females in games. So anyway, we'll return a little bit later to the audience reaction of the game. But before we get there, I just want to talk about LGBT representation in Last of Us Part 2. First of all, we see our main character, Ellie, and she has this beautiful relationship with a character called Dina. And we get to see the progression of that relationship from the very beginning of their first kiss all the way to them living together as a couple. And I love to see the progression of that in the game because it's done in such a natural way, and their relationship is one that I could have seen myself having. And so I can relate to what I'm seeing in the game. And I think that's so important for queer people because we don't have a lot of representation in games that we can relate to and that feels realistic. And they absolutely have beautiful chemistry together. I mean, I can't even tell you how much I just love every time I saw these people on screen together. I love their chemistry. I think they're beautifully designed characters. And then, in addition to the lesbian elements in the game, we do also have a very important character in the game who's trans. And this character, when we first meet him, he introduces himself as male and he introduces himself as Lev. And as we progress through the game, we find out that his main story was that he was kicked out of the group that he was in for shaving his head. And at first you're like, why would you be kicked out of a group just for shaving your head? Like, what's the big deal with a haircut? And then you realize, oh, it's not the shaving of the head that was the problem. It's the fact that he wanted to transition from female to male. And you find out that his name before transitioning was actually Lily, and that his name now is Lev. And so the way that these elements are uncovered in the story is very natural. And once Abby figures out that Lev is trans, she doesn't even bat an eye. She's like, okay, you're a guy. I'm going to call you with your male name and your male pronouns, and that's it. Like, it was like not a big deal. And I think that that is such a great way of handling something that could have been a really awkward topic. But you can clearly see that not everyone in the game is approving of transness, because otherwise he would have never been kicked out of his group in the first place. And then you can also see that his family, his sister approves of him, but his mother is not on board. Very religious mother, religious family, not on board with this whole transition thing. So we get to see that, and once again, it feels real. And this is what I love about Naughty Dog, is when they do stuff, it feels real and relatable. Thank you. So when this game came out, the reception from critics was really, really good. And a lot of the professional reviewers actually gave this game 10 out of 10, which is not that common. And so we can see that it really, really had high acclaim. And it just won its first award this week. So it won the PS4 Best Game under Trusted Reviews. And this game has only been out for a few months, so I think we're only going to see it winning more awards as time goes on. But even though it had such a great reception in terms of the official critics, the audience reception, on the other hand, was awful. And I remember when the game first came out, and I had not even played it yet, I started seeing all over my YouTube and all over my feed how much people hated this game. And I was like, how could anyone hate a Naughty Dog game? What did they do that pissed everyone off so much? And I didn't want to read any of the reviews myself until I finished the game because I knew that they would spoil the game for me. So I only just read those reviews for the first time this week. And what I can say is that there were two major things that people really didn't like about the game. The first one is that Joel, who's the main character from the first game, gets killed in the second game within the first couple of hours, so I'm not really spoiling a few there. And he was such a beloved character from the first game. He's the person that you played the whole time in the first game, so of course you feel emotionally attached to him. So them killing him off like that really was shocking to a lot of people. But for me, I thought it is what needed to happen for this game to be the game they wanted to make. The creators at Naughty Dog said from the beginning that the first game was a game about love and the second game was a game about hate and revenge. So in order for somebody to really have that level of hate and to really seek out revenge, the only way that they could create that motivation for the character is for somebody that character loved with their heart and soul to die. And so to me, the fact that they killed Joel is exactly what they needed to do to make the game that they wanted to make. But I can understand how people didn't like that choice because now they couldn't play the character that they loved anymore. This story in the second game is a story about revenge. Truthfully, the story is trying to make you examine that idea that an eye for an eye leaves everybody blind. And the way that they do this in the game is that they make you play through the entire storyline first from Ellie's point of view. And so you see Abby as somebody evil and, just a horrible, horrible person. And then you get to play through the game from Abby's point of view. And obviously, the person doesn't see themselves as evil. And so when you play through the story from her point of view, you get to understand why she did what she did. And you get to realize that she's actually a pretty fucking awesome person. She does a lot of really great things. And she does one really bad thing. So then you start to question, does her doing one really bad thing in her life make her evil? And the one really bad thing that she did is something that Ellie has done over and over and over again. And so then you start to think to yourself, okay, if I'm going to hate Abby, don't I have to hate Ellie too? Or if I'm going to love Ellie, don't I have to love Abby too? And I think a lot of the people who were playing the game couldn't handle that because once you play through the game from Ellie's point of view, you're invested in this idea of hating Abby, and it's hard to let go of that once you feel that way. So you have to be open and you have to be empathetic to be able to play this game. But I think those people who hated the game the first time around, if they go back and give it a second run through, they're going to get the experience that they should have gotten the first time around. So what did I think of this game? My final verdict on this game is it is right up there with the best games that I've ever played in my life. And in fact, I might even say that it's better than the first game. I remember when I finished the game, I literally cried. So there were tears coming out of my eyes. And I'm not the type of person that cries when I play a game. So this was like, what just happened? And then in addition to shedding a few tears, I literally sat there and I stared at the wall and I listened to the whole credits, all the music, all the people's names went by. And then I stared at the wall for another half hour and I just absorbed the experience that I just had. Because they make some choices in the game and in the ending as well that I thought were so profound and unexpected and real. And it made you really think about life, and it made you think about feelings and motivations and the futility of revenge. And if you don't feel anything when you finish playing this game, I would be shocked. And the feelings that you're feeling, by the way, might not be good ones. It's not a happy feeling. But as an experience, the emotional journey that they took me on was so profound that I kept thinking over and over again about this game and about the lessons, if you will, that the game was trying to teach. But I think one of the reasons that I enjoyed the game so much is that I really took my time to play the game. So I didn't play it all at once. And I think those people who tried to binge play through the game probably got overwhelmed by it because it's a lot. But if you take your time while you play the game, and if you play a chapter and then take a rest and then play a chapter and take a rest, if you give yourself the time and the space to enjoy this game, make sure that you're ready to be destroyed emotionally and rebuilt back up again, then it will be one of the best games that you're ever going to play. And I also just want to conclude by saying that the LGBT representation in this game is probably some of the best that I've ever seen in a video game. It feels real, it feels honest and natural, and I want to thank Naughty Dog for that, because you know how often we have accurate representation of LGBT characters in games? It's so rare. And I think that there were some people that were annoyed by that. And they're like, well, why do you have to have all your characters be gay in the game? And I'm like, well, why do you have to have all your characters be straight in the game? Like, you've had straight representation in games forever. Give us a few games where we can have our main characters be LGBT. And I wanted to thank Naughty Dog for that, because I really appreciated Ellie as a character. I thought she was amazing and absolutely perfect. And I would play this game over and over again. I'm actually thinking of giving it a second run through right now. Like, after I just finished playing it, I'm almost thinking about playing it again right now. So I hope you learned something from that. And I hope if you haven't played Last of Us Part 2 yet, I hope you give it a playthrough. Send some of your love to Naughty Dog, because they got some bad reviews when this thing came out, but it did not deserve bad reviews. There's nothing about this game that was bad. Nothing. Like, everything was amazing and deliberate and thought-provoking and emotional. So I wanted to say thank you so much to Naughty Dog for making an awesome game. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this, go ahead and subscribe. And if you'd like to support me in being able to continue creating content like this, then I do have a Patreon account where you can support me there. So thanks very much and have a great day. So today we have Tiny Cat joining us. Tiny Cat, what did you think of Last of Us? You watched quite a bit of me playing that game. Did you like it? Did you think it was good? I think she thinks it was good. I think she thinks I should play it again. Don't you, Tiny?